Hi, today's guest is Clinton Fairbanks, a trusted advisor to more than 35 of the Global 500, and a leader who has guided multi-billion-dollar outsourcing and transformation programs across 30 countries. Clinton is known for turning complex global operations into performance-driven, resilient workplaces, blending strategy, governance, and innovation in ways that deliver both savings and growth. He's also an international speaker and author, and he brings rare perspective from living and working across Asia, Europe, and the Americas. In this conversation, you'll hear Clinton's take on future-proofing the workplace, navigating AI and automation, and also leading change programs that people actually embrace. If you're thinking about how to position your workplace strategy for what's coming next, this is a discussion you won't want to miss. So, hello, Clinton. It's good to see you again.
Likewise. Good to see you, Charles.
Time we met, I think the last time we probably saw each other was here in Singapore at Cornet.
Yes, I believe that was in March, and it was a really wonderful time.
It was. It's good to catch up with you again. And I recall from learning about you that you have worked all over the world, so it shouldn't surprise me that I bumped into you in Singapore. What are some of the places you've worked in? I know it's quite global.
Well, I would have to say I have worked in over 28 different countries. I've worked everywhere from Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, Finland, Sweden, Norway, all over Europe, Poland. And then when I've come to Asia, I lived in Japan for 7 years. And I've worked all over APAC, worked in Hong Kong, worked in Thailand, worked in Australia.
My goodness.
And also Singapore.
Wow. So. That's amazing. So you would know quite a thing or two about this topic. So I just want to jump right in and talk maybe first of all about the concept of, if it can be said this way, future-proofing facilities and the workplace. I don't know if future-proofing is a good term for it or not, but the workplace isn't just a cost center anymore. It's a platform for talent, certainly ESG commitments, and I would say lately digital transformation as well. So what is future-proofing, and what does it really mean for the workplace, especially given the hybrid nature of things these days and the tech-enabled era that we're in? Right.
Well, future-proofing, when we think about it, a lot of us think that future-proofing means getting the newest technology. It means getting the newest platform. You know, if we're future-proofing, we're solely focused on our AI integration plan. But future-proofing is a lot. You know, Charles, as you mentioned, space utilization, hybrid workspace. Ultimately, when you think about future-proofing, what are some of the key elements? Well, it really is preparing your organization for dynamic change. So if another pandemic were to happen, how flexible is your space to adjust to the requirements at that time? That's one way of thinking about future-proofing. Another way of thinking about future-proofing is, for example, low-maintenance facilities, sustainable facilities. So does that mean when you go out and you're retrofitting your office space, are you working to create an office space that, one, requires less cleaners? Does it require less maintenance? Does it require more environmentally friendly products? So these are things that you would have to think around from the whole 360-degree view of future-proofing your facilities. But there's one area I really kind of want to jump into. Is as we start looking, for example, future-proofing across the regions, across the globe is different. So future-proofing for Europe may be completely different than future-proofing for North America versus South America or even Asia Pacific. So give you an example. Europe continues to go in a population decline. So how do you future-proof your facilities? You're still going to need them to have people come and work and collaborate together. But how do you work and create, how do you maintain your facilities with a smaller and more what I'd want to call an agile workforce or an agile workspace. But more importantly is you still have to maintain the facility, but how do you do it with less labor?
Mm.
So a lot of future proofing will mean how do you think about your robotics strategy?
Automation.
You know, yeah.
Mm.
And so that, and then for example, on the Asia Pacific side, future proofing could be different in certain countries that have plenty of labor. Future proofing would mean how do you create flexible space that you can grow and add new seats, add new space without really, requiring the capital investments that are typically required for that.
Mm. But how do you separate the hype from the value when you're dealing with automation and perhaps AI investments, and ensure that they
Yeah.
enhance the operational resilience and the employee experience?
So there's always a risk of being the leader, right?
Mm.
And being the leader as you're going out, you're looking at these new systems, you're not sure what it is. So as a pioneer, you're just going out and blazing a trail, and there's a lot of risk to that. But now we've come to a point where, especially with AI, we're now starting to see very robust programs. We're starting to see more robust interfaces that people can actually go into and really do their due diligence. So I want to dive back in, and the ultimate answer to the question is slow due diligence, but doing it in a way where you define your methodology. You also reach out to industry experts,
Mm.
and one of the biggest risks is going at this go at it alone type of approach. Here, we have enough information to be powerful. Let's go do some Google searches. Let's go do some Chat GPT searches. That should be enough for us to go off of.
Mm. Mm.
I always recommend that the best way to mitigate your risk is really finding some industry experts who have that experience on implementing programs,
Yeah.
and really just taking and putting the brakes on a little, maybe making the decision a little bit, taking a little bit longer of a time to make a decision, but really going in and just as if you were doing a service provider evaluation, taking some time to really dive into the AI programs.
And it's changing. I mean, what is current now wasn't current 6 months ago, and we don't even know
Right.
what the next 6 months will bring. So how do you balance short-term controls with long-term strategic and sustainable and flexible goals? It seems like you have to make a decision at some point, and you want
Right.
that to be sustainable and flexible.
Well, with AI, here's the one really crazy thing is they continue to say that the computing power of AI is just going to continue to grow exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know when it's going to slow down, and the way things are going, there might not be a slowdown for a very long time. So in that case, you just have to really decide what's your appetite for risk versus what's your appetite for slow and steady growth. And also understanding that if you go too slow, you're going to be left behind. But if you go too fast, you run the risk of putting in something that could be pretty damaging to your organization.
Mm-hmm. So it's a fine balance.
Um,
You have to do some studies to figure that equation out.
exactly. I'll give you an example. I've been working with a company in Warsaw, and my point of contact, he has been an AI expert for the last 5 years. And so, based on the number of implementations he has done with his company, I would use somebody like him ultimately because I understand he's got a track record of what he's done with AI. He knows how AI is progressing more and more. He understands the capabilities.
Mm.
He also is able to help filter through the hype. So that's kind of goes back to what I said earlier is sometimes you have to find an outside expert who's really been doing this for a while
Mm.
and lean in on their expertise.
And this can have other implications too. So I suppose, well, I consider you a bit of an expert in outsourcing, not just outsourcing in general, but global outsourcing.
Right.
And I'm wondering if outsourcing reshapes how these operations go globally. What is the most overlooked steps when selecting providers?
So, one of the biggest areas with selecting a provider is finding the right provider.
Mm.
And then there's multiple outsourcing types of programs. For example, there's just outtasking, where you're finding multiple providers. Or you can do strategic outsourcing, where you're finding a few service providers that may be region wide, or they may be country specific,
Mm.
or you may be going with a integrated facility provider.
Mm.
With an integrated facility provider, the timeline to out the overall outsourcing of the program can be extended greatly, because in many cases, a company is really looking to put all their eggs in one basket, one service
Is that
provider.
best when you have a multi-region sort of footprint?
It depends on your company, depends on your appetite for risk, but moreover, it really depends on the service providers in the region. So let's say you're a financial institution.
Mm-hmm.
It may be best to go with a single global provider. If you're a company, give you an example, these rental spaces. There's multiple companies out there that now do the rental office space. It probably is to your best interest to go with a large global provider, because there's a certain number of companies that actually do have global capabilities, from real estate selection, lease administration, all the way through to the facility management portion.
Yeah, we work with
But
them a lot
ultimately,
for due diligence when they're selecting buildings too. So I'm aware
mhm,
there's a few of those.
yeah.
But I mean, if you're trying to maintain alignment across all these regions, I'm just wondering what's the best approach. Maybe there is no one best approach.
So here's the best approach for a company: is first and foremost understanding what your governance process is.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not robust, first build a robust process.
Mm.
And with AI and with a lot of the new program management tools that are out there, it's actually getting easier and easier to create a standardized program across one CMMS system, or across one type of work order system. There are work order systems that are global in nature. So if you mandate that on the service provider, that is one way that now you can standardize all operational procedures among all of your service providers. So technology is coming to a point where you're really able to actually work to create a single global standard,
Mm.
but also have the ability to call out the local nuances. But more importantly, is also there's a huge component to compliance and government regulations. So this is one of those areas that if you're a global firm, and for example, you have factories in Europe, you have factories in Asia,
Mm.
and then you have factories in the Americas. Well, those local jurisdictions, what we call the AHJs, they're going to have multiple different laws. And so with AI, this is the beauty, is that there's more and more systems that are coming out to help track compliance across all these regions, track all these nuances. So really, when it comes down to it, having a strong, robust internal program first
Mm-hmm.
is best. And then from there, when you do select a strategic provider or an integrated provider, or even a multiple number of outtasked providers,
Yeah.
doesn't matter which region you're in, if you have that same operational procedure across all your providers, now you can govern them the same way.
Okay. Well, I mean, that sounds like the something to move towards, something to aspire to, and I
Mhm.
guess you've been helping a lot of people do exactly that. But I keep hearing about moving from a task-based delivery to a performance-based outcomes, and I don't know a lot about that area, but I know it should support ESG and business continuity. Maybe you could fill me in on that a bit.
So outcome based is really coming to the service providers and saying, hey, we trust you as the experts in the industry
Yeah.
to service our portfolio the best. So an outcome-based program really would say, let me give you a great example of what's the difference between task-based versus
Please, yeah.
outcome-based is. Let's take janitorial, the cleaning of restrooms, because this is something that normally every organization has. And so let's say you put in your statement of work that, hey, you need to clean the restrooms 3 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to be in this condition and that condition. That you've created a task.
Task-based, yeah.
You've created a service level expectation that they have to meet as part of their agreement. Now, if you were to go with outcome-based, and the outcome-based says the restrooms need to be clean and at this presentable level. What you've done is you've now given the service provider the flexibility to come in and say, okay, we're going to do a time study. We're going to do an occupancy utilization study, and we're going to determine which restrooms need to be cleaned 5 times a day and which restrooms need to be only cleaned once or twice a day. Oh, and we're also going to make sure that we're going to just send our day porter to do daily periodic checks to a certain number of restrooms, and if needed, then yes, cleaned.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've told the service provider, we recognize your judgment. Now just make sure you keep it clean to that expected outcome.
You've outlined the performance, not just the steps.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
But you've been involved in a lot of other areas, not just these kind of delineations. You've done, I've heard you lecture about change management and leadership, and so many different aspects. I wanted to touch on take a step back and look at the strategy aspect.
Right.
How strategies fail and how they succeed. Quite often, especially in a change management situation, it doesn't succeed if people don't embrace it. So I just want to look at the leadership role in getting to change. I say that because I'm talking to others about change, and I've seen and heard many different perspectives about it. I also have some degree of education in change management, but I know that that's changing, and everybody has a different way that it works for their industry or their needs.
Right.
So it's mostly about communication and understanding, and dealing with people who are skeptical, perhaps. So how would you communicate and win over teams that may be skeptical of, for example, this automation you speak of, or the outsourcing plans you have? How would you deal with them to win them over?
So when it comes to change management, I have learned there are the tops down commanding approach that this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
You're going to implement it whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Yep.
Just do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That creates a lot of friction. Yes, it creates change, but it also, in organizations like that, you can actually see a higher level of turnover.
Yeah.
You also have organizations that have the mandates, but I like to call them the unfunded mandates or the unsupported mandates. So the leadership gives a strategy that, hey, we're going to roll this out across the company, and then there's no funds to really roll it out, and within 3 months it's an afterthought. And the company goes back to its original business as usual.
Yeah.
So what I have found most effective with change management is tops down, bottoms up ownership. So what that means is everyone owns the success. Everyone's rewarded equally for the success of the change. And moreover is that in many cases, when you're able to get your team members to be a part of the actual solution. So let's go back to that performance base that we just talked about.
Yeah.
With task-based, you're coming in and you're creating a mandate for a service provider. The service provider is doing the work. Technically, they're here bringing you the table versus sitting with you at the table creating the strategy. They're not considered an equal strategic partner. So when it comes to change management, the way you work in a performance-based contract is you're creating a service provider to be an equal partner in the relationship.
Yeah.
Same thing with any sort of change management, whether it's internal or external. As long as both all the top and the bottom, anyone in between, low level management, high level management, wherever it stands, as long as somebody has the ability to put their input in to the program,
Mm-hmm.
the ability to be heard, and then if it is a good idea and the company agrees it's a good idea, it becomes something that becomes part of that plan. More people will take ownership in that because that was one of their ideas. And I noticed this from Europe to Asia to the Americas. It works everywhere. Everyone wants to take ownership and pride in their work.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I've seen that myself. I've been worked with people for a long time to invent new ways of doing things, and I know I'm successful when they get up and want to explain to everybody the success they've had and roll it out as their own, and I just fade into the
Mm-hmm.
background and let them take ownership of it, and they love it. Um, so
Right.
that's when you know you're successful. It's that partnership, as you said. But I don't even
Right.
mind being the senior partner at the beginning and then receding and let them be the one taking the forefront of what they've discovered. It's a wonderful thing when they do that because it shows that they have a lot of pride in it, in the solutions.
Absolutely.
So I'm wondering the practical ways,
Here's
though, I mean, all these things have to, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but they
no,
have to serve a purpose that has to be defined first, I guess.
right.
So how do you uncover
So
those pains, I guess I'm saying? Agree them.
yeah.
Yeah.
So uncovering the pains, there's many ways to do it. You can do them through surveys. You can do them through team discussions. Personally, I have my own process. I call it a VIO. I call it you. You go in and everyone from senior leadership all the way to the boots on the ground, the
Mm-hmm.
people who are running the machines and cleaning the bathrooms.
Yeah.
Everyone gets to take a part of this, and we do an evaluation of what's the value of the organization, what's your value that you're bringing to the organization, and then I dive into what are your improvement areas, what are the immediate opportunities that you see ahead for the company and for you yourself, and then what are the obstacles that are in your way. And when we dive into this, I'll give you an example. A recent client of mine, we did a VIO with them where we evaluated their operations, we evaluated their senior leadership, and we evaluated the what I would want to call the office and the sales support team.
Mm-hmm.
They were all saying the same thing. Their resources were the greatest value, but they also were saying that also their biggest obstacle were their resources. So going through this process, we were able to really dive in and find out these are the things that we need to fix first.
Mm-hmm.
And how we created that roadmap is we were able to quickly find what would be the quick hits. And within this, you're diving into the change complexity and what is the impact to the organization if we make this change. So as you diagram it out and you're really striving for that upper right-hand corner, ultimately you start seeing the areas that really come up and they have big value to the organization. They're quick and easy to change. Those are the ones that you put on your roadmap first, and then you create the roadmap for all the other ones, and you time them out in a way that now you're going back to the proverbial boil the frog, or or going back to the cliche boil the frog. That's really what you're doing with a lot of these change programs. So that's how I will typically start a strategy and change roadmap is first by doing a VIO. Other companies, other people will do what they call a process maturity assessment, very similar, but ultimately you're really diving into what you're really having to hone in. What are our pain points? How do we solve them? How do we define success? And how are we going to get there?
Well, I
So,
certainly, and I also I resonate a lot with find some of the ones that are the highest positive impact with the lowest threshold to achieve them. That's
Right.
something we strive for as well. We're doing the beginnings of these things. Absolutely.
Mm.
Excellent. Well, it's been so great. We could talk all day, but our time is limited. So I thought maybe we could finish by talking about what people can take away. Like, if you have corporate real estate executives, what are the leadership actions that they should take now to ensure their workplace strategies deliver sustainable outcomes over the next period? Can you think of any that would be great advice for them to take?
So when I'm talking with leaders, no matter what client is, I like to call it flexible discipline. And as a leader, you need to have that discipline built in that you're going to stick to the plan
Mm-hmm.
once the plan is identified. Once you're going to move, you're going to stick to it, you're going to monitor it, and you're going to make sure it is implemented through the end.
Mm.
This is one of those areas where, for example, global transitions. When doing a global transition for a organization, many times the client will believe that the service provider is the one who needs to manage the transition program. And so they'll let the service provider run the checklists, run going through this. Ultimately, really is that when you are the client, when you're the buyer,
Yeah.
you actually have to have your own internal program. You have to have robust reporting. You have to have robust milestones. And you have to be monitoring the success of not only the service provider, but your team. So circling it back around is, as a senior leader,
Mm-hmm.
is first and foremost, make sure you have a robust plan. And that comes through the due diligence and working with the feedback of your team, and having that consensus, and having that energy for the team to do it. But it is sticking to the plan. So if your meetings are scheduled for every fourth Thursday of a month, stick to your meetings.
Mm.
Join those meetings. Make it a priority, because that will show that this plan is important and that this change is important to the organization.
And that'll help to drive the sustainable outcomes. Mm.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
That's brilliant. Okay. Well, I'm sure that if people consult with Soji, they can get your help and advice further. I'll make sure that your contacts are available when this is posted. It's been a delight talking to you, and I hope to see you again in Asia uh, sometime soon. I don't know that I'm going to be over there in Chicago anytime soon, but you travel the
yep.
world, so I hope to see you again soon.
Charles, likewise, I hope to be over in Asia again. I'm definitely always in Japan every summer, but who knows? Maybe I'll have a chance to get over to Singapore. So,
Okay.
all right.
Well, please stay in touch, and thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Charles. Have a great day.
You too. If you'd like to learn more, email Clinton at sojifm.com or connect with him on LinkedIn.